The input type we already used was text. There's lots of types that you can have, but you can't make them up. Let's have a look at some of the different types that you can have. Instead of putting text in the type attribute, let's try password. The element is still the same, it's still input, but here in type, I'm just going to write password instead of text. All the other attributes are the same. The ID and the for have to be the same, and the name can be whatever you want. They can all have whatever you want inside them, and in this case, I'm just using password for ease. If I go to my browser and start typing in the password field, because I've set the input type to be password, the browser will automatically hide the text for me. This is why we should use the right type for the right input, because the browser gives us stuff for free, stuff that we won't have to code ourselves. Another very useful input type is the email type. If we use this type, then the browser will look for an email format which we type into the text box. It will look for that @ symbol. Some browsers don't, so be careful. You should use it because it's the correct type to use for an email address, but don't rely on it. Instead of typing this all out again, I'm just going to copy and paste it by holding down Shift and moving my cursor, and then pressing Ctrl or Command C, and then Ctrl or Command V. There's also a date input. You've probably seen it. It's just type date, and again, the ID, name, and for can be whatever we choose. So I'm just writing date for ease. As you can see in the browser, we now have it pre-filled, and there is a drop-down which allows you to pick a date. This is what we call a date picker. Most browsers show this if you use the type date as an input, but again, don't rely on it because not all browsers do. You might want to allow the user to upload a file. That type is a file type. And as you can see, the browser gives you a button which you can click and it will bring up the file browser on the computer. If you want the user to have a box to tick, the type you need for that is a checkbox type. So here in the type attribute, I'm going to write checkbox. And what's going to happen in the browser is I'm going to have a checkbox appear, which we can check and uncheck. A very similar type to checkboxes are radio boxes. They're the circular ones instead of the square ones. The main difference is that radio boxes are mutually exclusive. This means if you link them together in the code, you can only select one at a time. Think of them like your multiple choice test where you can only have one answer. This means that we need to group the labels in the inputs for the radio boxes together. Let's write the labels and the inputs for the radios first. The type for a radio is just radio. And as we can see on the right in our browser, we have a circular option. I'm going to copy that 2 more times so we have more than one to choose from. At the moment, though, they're not linked together in the code. We can actually select all of these radios if we wanted to. The thing that links them together is actually the name attribute. As you can see, I've got name attributes for each of my inputs, but they're all different. If I make them all the same, now I can only select one radio out of the three. There are quite a few more different types of inputs that you can have in forms. These are just the most popular that we're covering here in the basics course. If you're interested, I would highly recommend signing up for updates from Ultimate Courses, because we'll be delving deeper into forms in an advanced course later on.